everyone, welcome back to 10 out of 10.
So for today's video, in honor of International Women's Day, we're actually gonna do a little discussion of just some statements, and we're gonna agree to disagree and just discuss.
So the rules of this Chit Chat video is our mediators, which are the Rectos, they're gonna be stating statements for us, and if you agree, you leave your cameras on, then you turn it off. If you disagree, you turn your cameras on and you discuss. Each group will have a certain amount of time to discuss. Then we'll all turn our cameras on and we'll have a group discussion at the end.
So the first statement is, there is a strong sense of females empowered depicted in movies, shows, and society. If you guys agree, please leave your cameras on. If you disagree, please turn it off.
I agree to this statement because I feel like there are some movies that have very strong female or women empowerment. The only example I can think of in my head right now is a scene from Avengers Endgame where all the female superheroes just came together and fighting over Thanos. And I think that was a very strong scene.
No, I definitely agree with Jazel. Just with Marvel itself, I feel like we've come a long way in the movie industry back in the 50s, and just the society in general. Women were often perceived as a housewife, they would be at home doing all the housework, and men would be out working for the family. If I were to tie movies and society together, the way that women are perceived now, women have that sense of equality, and we have come a long way from where we were back in history to where we are now. But we do still have a long way to go.
I also agree, just because in the past it was a lot less visible. Female empowerment wasn't as present, but now a lot of the Disney movies that just came out are all female leads. The two animated movies that I remember, which are also Asian culture, one of them was called Over the Moon. The main character is this little girl who basically engineers this rocket herself. And I was like, oh, okay, so I think that now female empowerment is a lot stronger, WandaVision, Avengers in general, but also Disney. I think there are a lot more women present in movies, even though it's not the same kind of role that men have.
Also with Disney and Pixar, Brave, Frozen, those all portray strong female leads that don't require a man, damsel in distress type of movie. Yeah. I just feel like that's really emerging, that's growing.
I agree too. I've been recently watching the X-Men series, and I actually did not know Mystique was such a figure in X-Men, because if you guys watch Days of the Future Past, she was actually the mutant that everybody looked up to, because she was the only mutant who stood up to the humans, and that's why we agreed to this statement.
Okay, so with everybody that disagreed, you may now turn on your cameras. So I disagree with the statement, and it's interesting that the girls that agreed brought up all these movies, because these are the same movies that I also wanted to talk about. So for example, Avengers, if we look at all the Marvel series, more than half of it are male superheroes, versus the only one right now that we have is probably WandaVision that recently just got her a series, and in Marvel, who again was very recent. Everybody else, that when Marvel first started, they're all male. Out of the whole Marvel series, even though they showed that scene, why is it only until now that they're doing this, right? You're right, it is one step in the right direction, but at the same time, I don't think the presence is still there, because we're still kind of fighting to have these roles. The same thing with Disney princesses. You're right. Again, they've always kind of been seen as a damsel in distress. There's always a prince that needs to be in there. You mentioned movies like Brave and Frozen, which Brave, they didn't have that much appreciation as all the other princess movies. The princesses are always seen a certain way. And it doesn't show them in power, unfortunately. It shows them as they need to be saved. They need a prince in their life. So, in my opinion, I think you're right. As they were saying, it is one step in the right direction, but I don't think it's strong enough. Women are still kind of fighting to be a strong lead role in society.
To add to that, I feel there is a sense of female leads in movies and TV shows. They're just not as strong. And if they are, there's something flawed, or they are rescued by a male, or they're flawed and then they come up because of a male. If it's not a love interest, it's a friend or something like that. There's always that sense of, oh, they have to be beautiful or sexualized to become like marketable. And I don't think that's a strong sense in a positive light. I feel like that's another statement in itself. But yeah, I disagree that there is not a strong sense. Even if it's just princesses and superheroes, I don't think that's enough for the media.
Yeah. So I definitely agree. And most of the movies and shows that were mentioned were all Disney and the Avengers. Well, Avengers is part of Disney, but or like DC Comics, like superheroes in general. But like outside of that, even the shows that I've watched previously, like The Office or BoJack Horseman, or even like animes, most of them have male leads, and then the women are usually sexualized, especially in animes. And so I do think as well there is a strong sense, but not to the extent where we should be by now, because women have been around for so long. And then on top of that, society as well, there's a stigma with girl gamers. I've been watching a lot of like YouTube girl gamers who get bullied by guys because they play games, and the guys think that girls are weaker than them, that they shouldn't be even playing these games because girls are meant to play with dolls. So I disagree with the statement.
When I read this statement and I read females in power, I was thinking of the examples of the Avengers and the Disney princesses were good because they were strong females, but I don't think they were females in power. When I think of females in power, I think of females in leadership. And I think that with the examples that were given, the strong female leads were not in leadership. A lot of the times they were either fighting alone or fighting a male. And like, I feel like, I don't know, when we think of like young girls who are looking for women in power and as role models, I feel like we should also be looking for representation as females as leaders of a team kind of thing, or leadership in, when we think of society, it's literally Kamala like that changed the game when it came to women in power, and that's what 2021. So I feel like maybe they're taking a step in the right direction. I feel like they're either not there yet or it's just kind of missing the mark. I feel like also women are depicted when they're in power, they're more of aggressive rather than assertive. And I think that's also a misconception in what a powerful woman looks like. So like, it's like they're doing something. Is it the right thing? I don't know.
I kind of disagree with all of like going back to the Marvel universe, because I think that's very present and very relevant in like my life, because I've been very interested in it. Even seeing like Captain Marvel, I would consider her such an OP character, but just how she was received by the audience was so different from how like Iron Man was received and all of the superheroes. And yes, they did have a scene, but like I think someone mentioned it, but it was just a scene in a movie instead of whole movies that could have happened. Black Widow is the only superhero in the Avengers, or I mean, there's the Guardians of the Galaxy, but going on, it's very like circumstantial. But not even like Marvel movies, but I was just thinking of like movies like Inception, but like those type of movies where it's like spies or other ones, it's usually a male lead and not like women. They're either side characters, they do add to the plot, but they aren't the lead. There's like one, that's the like key thing, is like there's that one, but then not like the most present and like mass of it. And yes, it is a step in the right direction, but I feel like it could have been done since time, but something's happening.
And also when I think of like funny female leads, it's like Bridesmaids and stuff, which is like, they're not in power, that's not the statement, but I'm just saying like it's either they're depicted as a strong superhero and they're not received well, or they come off as sexual, or the director or whatever wants them to be sexualized, or they're just supposed to be funny or a side character.
Female leads are usually in the romantic comedy genre and not like the action genre. But yeah, I just want to add on to that.
So I just want to add on to something that Christina said, and I think this is something that I thought of as well when we were making these statements, was that I know we talk a lot about movies and shows because it's something that we're so accustomed to, that we're so comfortable watching. But another factor, right? Kamala is literally the only vice president. We've had how many presidents? We're not American, but there's been so many presidents, and they're all male. But I wanted to bring out like a really good country that has a strong sense of female in power, which is the Prime Minister of New Zealand, right? That country literally has 0 COVID cases. She's on top of everything. There's literally a video that I watched where she had to talk about everything that they accomplished as a country as her being a prime minister in a minute. And the list was endless, and it was just so amazing to hear all the things that she did while she was in power. And it's funny because women are always perceived as to be weak, that we're not strong just because we are women. But again, like Kaycee was saying, and like we've been saying, is there's that one case out of how many, right? That's one country out of how many that has a strong sense of power.
Just talking about like Kamala, there's also like AOC that is very well known by everyone, and she's very like opinionated and very strong on like social media, but I know a lot of her like messages get really like degraded by a lot of people just because she's a female. I would say there's cases of that, and then she does come off as aggressive just because she's making these like opinions that can be like the harsh truth.
For Donna's point, I totally agree. I feel like they only started with the male dominant phase because MCU is actually doing like phases, and now I feel like they're starting to introduce more female dominant roles, which I kind of, appreciate that because I feel like a lot of people have been waiting for that. And I do agree with everyone who disagreed with it. I was literally like, yeah. And I really wish that I was able to like show you guys my face because I'm like, good point. Yes, girl. Yes. I just want to add one more thing about what Christina said, how she thought that like, female empowerment isn't just like what we've been talking about, but it's more like leadership. I want to give Startup as an example, and Startup is a Korean drama. I think, the lead there, so there's 2 leads, the guy and a girl, but the girl literally like she was from doing part-time jobs or whatever, and then she worked hard on being a CEO. And I feel like in the business world, a lot of females have been starting their own businesses and it's growing like crazy. And, I just want to give them honor for that too.
I will kick myself in the head if I don't mention this. Not just that there aren't strong female leads in movies or TV shows. There's not a lot of POCs or BIPOC female leads. So I would kick myself if I don't mention that, because all the Marvel or superhero women, yes, they're amazing to like have as a young female to look up to, but I can't think of strong female BIPOC. Like in Black Panther, amazing women, amazing women of power there. And all the Disney princesses, I mean, Moana, but again, she's not in a position of power. She's part of like a family who's in power, but like, you know what I mean? There needs to be more BIPOC female leads. Like
Jazel said, I agree with basically everything that you guys are saying. And I think that we're coming from, at least the people that agree, I think we're coming from more of in this present moment, we're noticing that there's a lot more female presence, a lot more female power than there used to be. Like presently, in the past few years, there have been a lot more movies with female power. And when you guys were talking, I know that we only mentioned like Disney movies and like animated movies and like superheroes, but even like the 2 shows, if you guys have watched The Boys, because The Boys is like a superhero movie, but all of the men are bad and all the women are like super powerful. The main characters are like, all the women in the movie are some next level strength, but all of the women in that show are super strong. So that's one example. And then another example, if you guys have seen the show New Amsterdam, it's like a hospital. All the women in that show as well are very like intelligent, and they try to bring in like women of color as doctors, and they like basically prove the men doctors wrong a lot of the time. So I think even though it hasn't been as strong in the past, in this present moment, a lot of the movies now are depicting women as powerful and intelligent and strong in other ways than just beauty.
I do agree in a way, because I think there's going to come to a point where we're always going to continue to compare how we were in the past, right? Well, this used to be like this, and we're only here now. Well, again, like growth and progression takes time. We can't expect change to happen overnight. You're right. We are in step in the right direction, but I think there is going to come to a point where we're going to have to accept, like, you know what? I think we're at a good time, right? I don't think that time is now. I don't know if that time is near, but I you're right. I think beauty to this is that we are, 2021, one step in the right direction. What is one thing you love about being a woman?
What I love about being a woman is that we're definitely underestimated and much stronger than what we are perceived. And there are things that we do, like even relating to like pregnancy or different environments. If given the opportunity, we can definitely excel and just be great and powerful.
Like going off of what Kaycee said, we're so much capable more than we think we are, and our bodies are attest to that. That we can nurture a child, we can like, create life, literally, and we go through so many things that just shows that how strong we are as a woman. And women go through so many things, so many trials, and so many hardships, but always come up on top or is getting there. I wouldn't say a fast, or I wouldn't say slow. It's just we're getting there at our own time and our own pace. And I love being a woman.
Confidence is so beautiful, whether it's a woman or a man or whatever. If you're confident about something, it's like that's who you are. There's a lot of women that are, they show their talent, they show what they can do, they show like their hobbies and interests, and the fact that they're just showing the world who they are, that's confidence right there. And that's what I love about being a woman.
Add to what Jaisal said in terms of confidence. Like, I think with the idea of being a woman, we automatically think of being empowered. And I think with empowerment, we all kind of come together. Like, women are able to be together and be confident together.
Like we feed off of each other's energy, kind of
just
thing.
like this.
We hype each other up,
Okay,
like this.
So to add on to Jaisel's, what I love about being a woman is that we're all emotional beings, and it can be perceived as negative, but to me, it's a positive thing because we're not afraid to show our vulnerable side, and then also at the same time, show our emotional support. And with that emotional support, it all brings us together and give each other confidence and share each other our deepest secrets and vulnerable sides of each other. So that's what I love about being a woman.
Yes, a woman's love is just so incredible, and just empowering that, it just feels, you just feel it. A woman's love is just powerful. So period.
What Mary said earlier, like we have a lot of trials since puberty to like now, and we're still growing. And the fact that like we are emotional most of the time. I don't know about everybody. Like we PMS when we're on our periods, but we can take it. Like we can take the hardest shit ever. We're allowed to swear. We're bad bitches.
What I love about being a woman is that women get things done. In all the groups that I'm a part of where women take leadership, there have been amazing things that have come out of it. Like what I think Jaisal said earlier, there are so many women-run small businesses that have been opening up during COVID. And I think we have the potential to do so many great things in the world if only the opportunities were given to us. There's like a saying that was like, with one great man, there's like a woman like supporting him or standing behind him. But imagine if it were women in the front. Like imagine how much greater the world would be if more women were in leadership. I feel like sorry, that's something I'm really passionate about.
Period.
That's I can't.
I think just to kind of tie it all together, like history shows that nothing was handed to us for being a woman. Like we've had to fight for our place on the table. And I think having to do so just over the years, like you're right, we have, like mentioned earlier, we did come a long way. And I think what I like about being a woman is, like was said earlier, is just that everything that has happened has just made us stronger.
Can I just say, I love this, that yes, we are women here speaking about women, empowering women, and we're also speaking about topics and just encouraging one another on our platform run by women, beautiful people of color, women of color. I just want to say I love it. I love you guys. Thanks.
statement is I project myself in a certain way to impress others.